We can just have a little bit of conversation. It'll take 2 minutes.
Sure. Namaste, Priya ma'am.
Namaste, Manisha ji. Namaste to all.
This is something quite important that we are going to discuss today. As I could see in the view foil, Arjun, are we going to take up peer pressure today?
Yes, I'm just setting it up.
Sure.
It'll take another
Please.
2 minutes, 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes. Go ahead, please. This is something which is much related to the students as well as the grown-ups, the faculty members as well. So n number of agendas that the students feel a lot of peer pressure, and we the faculty members or we the mentors uh, have to do much about developing a right understanding in our students, in our younger ones, and at times in ourselves as well, to uh, to take care of such situations where the children who are in the hostels, or the children who are, though we are in an online mode right now, and this itself is generating some kind of a unrest and some kind of a pressure in children, in students. So we just don't have to just take care of our classroom teaching, but to mentor the students in the right way, so that they are able to look into much of it in the right way, and handle and take care of these circumstances and situations in a better way, so that they don't develop uh, such anxiety or pressure. So I think Arjun has taken care of the view foil and the slides. Arjun, so is it fine now?
Yes.
Nice. So welcome, Arjun, and the students along with the faculty members are eager to listen to the proposals and be equally participative. We'll request all our friends to be equally participative in the discussion. Sure. Yes.
Okay, namaste to all. And in today's session, we are going to talk about peer pressure. And earlier we have talked about trust, where we have seen two things basically. One is that we are similar to the other in the sense that we have the same program, we have the same potential, and we are similar to each other because we want the same thing. We all want the same. We all have the same basic aspiration that we want to be happy all the time, and we want to be prosperous also all the time. So from that, when we see like that, the other person also wants to be happy all the time, the other person also wants to be prosperous all the time, then we can see that we are similar to each other. And we've seen trust also in the sense that in two parts, when we break it into two parts of intention and competence, where intention is to do with the natural acceptance of the other. Intention of yours is to do with your natural acceptance, and the competence is what you're actually able to do, or your ability. So we have gone through this before about trust, and uh, on the basis of our trust on intention and trust on competence, we can make a program of how to deal with the situation, or how to handle the thing. So when we are able to see both parts of the trust, like the intention and the competence, then it makes us much more comfortable in taking a decision, and then taking the right decision also. So for example, if there is someone who is not able to do something, like suppose there's a student who is not really studying that well because he's not able to understand what is being taught. In that case, we can just split it and see, like, is his intention not to study, or is it that he wants to study but he is not able to because he doesn't have the ability? That could be one scenario. Or another scenario where the student is not interested in studying because it doesn't feel relevant to him or her. So in that case also, the intention is still to be happy and to do the right thing, but it's just that because of not being able to see clearly what is the role of, what is the purpose of this education and all that, because of that there might be a situation where the intention is to be happy and to be prosperous, but then the competence is not there to understand that uh, by doing this or by studying this thing it will help him or her. So in all these cases we can see that if we split into the intention and competence, we can see that intention is to do with natural acceptance. So everyone has the right intention, but when it comes to competence, we all vary in our level of competence because we are all we have different abilities, right? Like some people are good at something, some people are good at something else. So uh, like that we can always like start noticing what is happening. So now we'll talk about peer pressure and how, peer pressure is actually happening because of lack of understanding of the similarity between each other. We are trying to focus on differences, and therefore um, we end up having this kind of a pressure, which is not a real thing, but we feel that it is real, although it is just something which we have made up in our own minds. Can you see the screen? Is um, the slide visible?
As Arjun, the slide is visible.
It is visible.
Okay, over here it's showing something. Okay, now it is showing, it's okay. Okay, so when we try to get feelings from the other, or when we try to get something, anything from the other, mostly it's in the form of feelings, of trying to get acceptance, respect, and love, and all these kind of feelings which we want. When we try to get it through clothes, language, status, all these kind of things, then of course it doesn't work. But then because we feel that it may work, we tend to have a certain kind of a pressure which we have made in our own minds, which makes us feel that we have to, act in a certain way, behave a certain way. So we keep doing this all the time without realizing that it doesn't really work. So we'll just explore and see more about this. So when we talk about respect, we're talking about right evaluation, which means that you're able to evaluate the other based on his intention and competence. And you're able to evaluate yourself also on the basis of your intention and competence. And you can see your natural acceptance, you can see the other person's natural acceptance, you can see the other person's competence, your competence, all that is very clear. So on all those, on that basis, then you make an evaluation. So that is called the right evaluation. So when you're able to rightly evaluate the other person, then that is called respect. If you're not able to evaluate the other person properly, then it is either, like, then it is disrespect. So we'll first see what exactly is the basis for this right evaluation. So it is on the basis of the self, because respect is a feeling which is there inside the self. It's not part of the body. All the feelings, all the 9 feelings are within the self. They may be communicated by expressions using the body, but the feelings are not in the body, the feelings are in the self. So our basis for, seeing this right evaluation, what really right evaluation is, would be on the basis of the self. So when we look at myself, if I look at myself and I look at the other, then we can see that we have the same purpose of wanting to live in continuous happiness and prosperity. That's very clearly visible, right? That I want to be happy all the time, I want to be prosperous all the time, and the other also wants to live with continuous happiness and prosperity. So we can clearly see that our purpose is the same. There's no doubt about that. And when we look at our program is, in the sense, our action, what action uh, would lead to fulfilling the purpose. That would be to understand and live in harmony at four levels, at all the four levels of the individual first, then the family, and the society, and then the entire nature and existence. So our program is also the same, although everyone may not see it that way because they may be trying other means to reach that purpose of continuous happiness and prosperity. But then when you see that the other ways are not working, then you start exploring the harmony. When you see that it doesn't work to get happiness from outside and get prosperity also just by accumulation of wealth, then you start seeing that there must be some other way. And then you start trying to understand the harmony. So everyone ends up, having to go through this. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes, we try other methods for a long time until we figure out that that's not working. It takes time to figure out that it's not working also. So then we start exploring the harmony. And when we start exploring the harmony, then we can see that we also want to try to understand things because we don't know so many things. We want to understand how to be happy and how to be prosperous. So there may be two kinds of cases where somebody knows about um their program, or where somebody is exploring other things of trying to get happiness through sensation or happiness through physical facility or some other way. So there may be that situation where the person doesn't know the program would be like this, and there can be a situation where the person knows the program, and therefore he can see that the other person is also trying. He might be trying some other things which are not working, but then you can at least see that this is the program to happiness and prosperity. Then when we see potential, we can see that we all have imagination, we all have what we discussed last time: desires, thoughts, expectations. It's a continuous process happening inside us. And we also have this faculty of natural acceptance, where we can refer to that faculty and get the right answer. And that answer is always comfortable because that is coming from within, that is coming from a place which is very pure. And that answer is always going to be like something which is for your own good also, and for the good of the others also, and for the good of nature also. That is also a check that you can see, that your natural acceptance is universal, and it has the characteristic of being good for all. So in terms of our potential, when we see, we all have the same kinds of things going on. Like, we may have different content of imagination, but the process of imagination is continuous in me, and it's continuous in the other also, in you also. So it's happening in the same way. So we're trying to just say that we are the same kind of creatures, or the same kind, not creature, I mean, we are the same kind of human beings. All human beings have this thing going on. So we can say that our potential to understand also is the same. We may spend different amounts of time, and therefore different amounts of effort, and different results we may get, but our potential is the same. Whether we are smart in, intellectually smart, or intellectually not smart also, our potential of understanding this is the same, because that doesn't need the intellect. It doesn't need you know this uh, this it's not information which will trigger things. It is more of something which is innate in all of us. So we can see that we all have the same purpose, all have the same program, and we all have the same potential. So once we can see this, then we see that the other is similar to me, because um, on the basis of the self, these three things, if we can start seeing clearly, like start looking at in an other individual and then try to see if the other person wants to live with continuous happiness and prosperity, if the other wants to also understand harmony, and if the other has the same potential to understand and same thing going on, like some set of desires, thoughts, expectations. When we are saying our program is the same, then we are saying that um, like although the program is to understand and live in harmony, everyone may not see it that way, but then eventually they may figure out that other methods of trying to get happiness through sensation and all these methods don't really work in the long run. They just give you a little bit of excitement for a few moments and then they disappear. So it's something like saying that this is a thing which is there inside us, which some of us have uncovered more, some of us have uncovered less. But basically, um, this is what is happening inside, which we innate, which it's something which is innate, which we all want actually. So the other is similar to me. That becomes clear. And when that becomes clear, then we automatically have respect. We don't even have to express it, because once you start feeling the similarity between you and the other person, then you automatically show it in your behavior also, because it's coming from inside you. You have that feeling for the other also, that the other is similar to me. So then if you want something good for yourself, then you want something good for the other also, because you are feeling that the other is similar to me. So that's what happens when you interact with other people also in the world, once you have this kind of a feeling inside you. So respect comes from being able to see this. And the competence is different from the feeling. The competence is on the basis of the right evaluation of our mutual competence, which means that we check, we do our right evaluation of ourselves and of the other, and then we make a decision on what to do further. So if the other has more understanding and is more responsible than me, then I'm committed to understand from the other. That means I just want to learn from the other, because I feel that the other can help me, and the other knows something which can help me. So I start trying to understand from the other. And if I have more understanding than the other, then I would be more responsible. I would not get upset or angry, and I would try to help the other without a feeling of domination, or without any kind of feeling that I am superior. Without that, I will first of all live with responsibility with the other, such that the other is very comfortable and has assurance about my behavior and about me. And then once there is assurance, then I can also help the other to understand, and the other can start, we can be complementary. So that's what happens when we are able to see this competence also. That first, we've already seen that with the first 3 points we can see that the other is similar to me, and with this fourth point we can see that we're complementary to each other, in the sense that if I have more understanding, I can help the other, and if the other has more understanding, then I can learn from the other. So both ways we can help each other, and we are complementary. So this is very different from another mindset of competition, where we are trying to say that we are different from each other and we have to get ahead of each other. So can you see the difference between that kind of a mindset, the competition kind of a mindset, and the respect kind of a mindset? You can mention in the chat if you're able to see that difference between the respect kind of the feeling of respect, and then the seeing the competence, evaluating the competence, and seeing that we're complementary to each other, versus competition where we are feeling that we are different from each other and we have to do better than the other. So there's a very big difference between these two. And there are definitely differences. So we're not saying that there are no differences. The differences are more superficial, which we have tried to portray as the most important. But in the reality, the feelings are in the self, and the self is what is instructing the body what to do. So the differences, which are based on the body or based on physical facility or based on beliefs or any of these things, are mostly to do with the body, and they don't really have any real significance. Of course, the difference is there, but um, if we are focusing so much on this difference and therefore creating a discrimination, then that is like something which is totally not necessary. Like we can see different cultures have different kinds of beliefs. Different cultures have different kinds of um, art forms and dance forms and all that. So if we just look at all this as different, like all these things are different, then till there it is good. But if we start looking at it as they're different and therefore like one is better than the other, or there's based on age or based on gender or race or any of these things, if we try to say that this is better than the other, this person, if the age is more than some number, then I should respect that person. If the age is less than this number, I should not respect the person. These kind of ideas which are coming are not really going to I mean, those are the ideas which are leading to discrimination. If we just take age as a number without trying to discriminate, if we just say that okay, this person is 60 years old, that person is 20 years old, and we just take it at that, and without trying to create a conclusion that the 20-year-old is less intelligent, or without trying to create these kind of comparisons and conclusions, then we see that the differences are all nice to have. So until the point where we start discriminating, there's no problem with differences on the basis of the body, on the basis of physical facility, on the basis of their beliefs, also opinions. I can have a different opinion, you can have a different opinion, but we don't have to fight about it. We can just have these different opinions and then try to discuss and then try to see what is common also in these opinions. And we can do so many things with the differences also. We can learn so much and we can do so much. So trying to accept the other as being similar is one way of going ahead, and another way is trying to show that the other is different and that I am either superior to the other or inferior, where we try to usually show that we are superior to the other. So in living, the question is, are we trying to do A or B? Are we, I mean, what are we actually doing right now? If we see, then you can answer in the chat whether we're doing A or B. No one wrote in the chat yet, I think. Um, can can write if we are, like, the whole thing of competition and the whole thing of peer pressure is all to do with trying to be different from the other. And in the case of this groups and all that, it is that we are trying to show that our group is different from the other group. So our group is better than the other group. It becomes something like that. But it's the same thing. We are just expanding that difference more and more and trying to create discrimination based on the difference. So that doesn't really help, and that creates that kind of peer pressure. So there are so many types of differences we are which we have, but we are creating discrimination based on these things, and that is the problem. The problem is not the differences. Differences are there, and if everything was the same, then it would be boring also, right? If everyone would have the same kind of what do you call, if everyone would have the same age, the same gender, the same race, same physical strength, same wealth, same all these things, and there are so many more. These are just a few examples. But imagine if everyone was the same like that, then there would be nothing interesting, right? So the differences is not the problem. The problem is with trying to create discrimination based on the differences, and then trying to showcase those different that kind of that feeling that I am superior to the other based on these so and so things. Like with the physical strength, we can see that people who go to the gym a lot and who have like those huge muscles, they try to show that difference and discriminate based on the physical strength. They may not say anything to anybody, but then they have that feeling within them that if I have this kind of a body, then it might make other people get attracted towards me, or these kind of feelings might be there. So that's the same thing. Whether we express it outside or not is another thing, but if it's there even happening in our mind, then it is creating that kind of pressure within our mind itself, even if we don't express it. Same with race also, that you might have this feeling that the fairer race is better than the other. So of course all that is not true, but then we have taken this as a preconditioning, taken this as an assumption, and then tried to do something so that we look better than the other. We have this feeling that we want to look better than the other, or so many things like that. So if we really explore, we can see that the differences, when we start trying to like associate them with what is better and what is worse, when we try to start exploring them that way, then we end up making mistakes and making our own life harder, because we start putting in so much pressure into ourselves. So differentiation and this kind of discrimination leads to resentment and protests. So these are some examples of, there are so many examples, but these are just a few. In the world today, we see so many kinds of differentiations like this. But the point is not to highlight this so much. The point is to see the similarity and then take the differences as differences without doing any differentiation or without doing any discrimination. So any kind of differentiation or discrimination is a form of disrespect. So even if I'm doing something very simple like trying to uh, do anything, I mean, basically, whenever we are doing any kind of differentiation, that becomes disrespect because the other person feels inferior or feels, you know, dominated by, or feels something. Like the other person starts feeling a feeling which is not naturally acceptable. So then that is disrespect. So when we do things when we just analyze our whole set of activities which we do and the people who we interact with and our whole thing which is going on in our mind at all those times, then we can explore and see if we are doing differentiation or are we trying to express our complementarity. So this can be an exercise also, which you can try. You can just try doing it and see whether we are like even if you're trying to look superior to another, look fairer or something like that, then it's doing you also harm, because you're in that kind of a pressure that you have to look good. And good, you have a preconditioning or an assumption that fair is better looking than dark. So like that, I mean, that might not be your preconditioning, but that's just an example. So like that, there may be so many things going on which you can look at and start seeing whether you're um, doing differentiation and disrespect for yourself also and for others also, or are you trying to just accept the differences and then not focus too much on the differences but focus more on the complementarity. So any kind of disrespect is not naturally acceptable because it doesn't give you the right feeling. It gives you all these wrong feelings of, the opposite feelings of the right feelings, which are like jealousy and this ego and feeling like feeling superior, all these things. So when we talk about respect, then over evaluation is to evaluate for more than what it is, under evaluation is to evaluate for less than what it is, and otherwise evaluation is to evaluate for other than what it is. So whenever the evaluation is not right, it is disrespect. So that means even if we are over evaluating, then it leads to disrespect because the other person may go into a ego kind of a state where he feels superior to the other. Instead of that, if we are doing the right evaluation, then the other person will feel happy that he has done the thing right and all that, but he will not go into ego because he will be like, we are evaluating correctly without trying to show more than what it is. So now for every interaction with others, you can start exploring whether you're doing any of these three above or whether you're doing the right evaluation. So any comments or um, questions, then we can discuss about this. If anyone wants to comment or discuss.
Respect what we tell. Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, someone was, yeah.
I was trying to speak.
Yeah, we can hear you.
They generally respect what we tell is, as you mentioned, I agree. Then this is what is the norm. Okay, but somewhere we find that it differs also based on the way you are seen or the way you are going to dress, the way you are going to present yourself. There are some other normally it should not be done. It should not be done. It should be everyone should be treated equally. But I think those things are also existing. What is your take on that, sir?
Okay, that's a nice point also, that when we like say we go to office or something,
Yes,
right now we are not going, but I'm just saying like before this
correct,
COVID, that
correct,
when we go to office or something, then you're expected to wear a tie or wear
correct.
a formal shirt or something like that for the for the rules of the place, and having that kind of a environment where
Yes.
everybody is wearing it, so then you also have to wear it. That's kind of a peer
No,
pressure
yeah.
also.
See, like no, that's also a pressure. Like you, there is a norm. You have to be like this. You have to see, for example, a policeman has to be in his uniform. That is the code which they have to follow. But when I'm talking in terms of general, in maybe in a college, maybe in a campus, I had one student long time back. I had one student. The poverty was at a extreme end in their home. So
Okay.
obviously, his dressing pattern was very normal, very just a basic necessity. But the rest of the people used to look differently. That respect, what you tell, the disrespect, that comes not because of the person, the because of the person and his attire. I think that should be something taken in a very serious sense. Like we have to tell the student that you have to have equality. Something there. What is your opinion on that, sir? In terms of your way of projecting with your costume or a dressing.
Yeah, so we can take it in two ways. One is that we look at what is required for that organization or for that thing, like how you're saying the policeman. Then when we are taking that kind of example, then the dress code is like even office also or any of these places, they've made a kind of a rule where they want to have everybody wearing some particular kind of a dress code. But the
Yes.
point is, when we try to use that as the basis of respect, then
Ah, yeah,
we don't
correct.
really look at it as respect. We look at it as something like a rule which is made
Correct.
for the like we have so many rules like that which we are expected to follow just for the sake of I mean because we want that job or we want that thing. So
Correct, sir.
if we didn't need that job or that kind of role, then we would not have to follow those rules. But in the case of something where we are keeping it more open, the choice more open, like when we just go out for a party or something, there also you have your own choice, but still you decide to use clothes which other people are wearing, the same kind of dress code as others, because you feel that to fit into that group, you want to feel respected by those people who you're going to meet, and therefore you wear that. But does that really does that really give respect, or is that just for the sake of trying to be in that same group, trying to fit into that same group? That's the same thing which happens with any case. Like if there are people who are having alcohol, say there are 10 people in a party who are having alcohol, and then say that you say that you don't drink,
Correct.
then there can be that situation also, right, where those 10 people start making fun of you because
Yes,
you
correct.
don't drink.
Right, right, sir.
So all these situations are not really going to give you respect where you try to fit in, because when you try to fit in, all you're doing is giving you a kind of a false assurance that you have these friends who are
Yes, sir.
you're going to try to fit in. But if the friends were actually genuine and
Ah, yes, sir.
who would not bother about this, then you would fit in without the alcohol also, right? Even if the 10 people
Correct.
are having it,
Yes, sir.
even then you will fit in and not feel awkward in that situation.
That's what you are trying to tell, that it should come from the heart.
Yeah, so even in the office also,
Yes, yes.
if you're able to feel comfortable wearing shorts and they don't have a rule that you have to wear something, if you're allowed to go with some other kind of dress code, then you can go with any dress code, and as long as you are comfortable with it, there's no problem, right? Even if other people make fun of you, say even if they do, then is that changing anything about you? Or is it just it's just an opinion, right? Like I can have an opinion about you, somebody else
Yeah,
can have
yeah.
another
Correct,
opinion
sir. Correct.
about you, but none of these opinions will change you unless you
Yes, yes.
decide that you want to take this input and then take it as something that you are. Like suppose I say something good about you, and suppose somebody else says something very critical about you, then if you have your own right evaluation of yourself, then all these inputs come and then you know how
Yes.
to take them because you know yourself properly, you have your own right evaluation of yourself. So then
I'll
all
be
these
more
inputs which
confident.
keep
I
coming,
do best to myself. Correct, correct. You're right, sir. You're right.
yeah, so all these inputs which keep coming, what I'm saying is that all these inputs are not really necessary to judge what action you take. So even if I mean, as long as you don't have a rule that you have to wear this if you go to office or something, even if it's a
Correct,
party or
correct.
something.
No, correct, sir. It is a decent dress to be required at every place. So that is a it's a norm. Okay,
Yeah,
I fully agree with a decent dress should be there. But as you told, correct, it varies. Say like a friend when there's a real friend, where the real people there who can understand. I think from your perspective, it will not make any change. Whether okay. So everyone, if they accept, that is okay. But we should not pretend that we are supposed to be accepted in a group.
yeah, that also. And suppose you're not accepted also. I mean, suppose you are made fun of or something. Then if that doesn't affect you, if you're not really getting affected by that, then you can continue to wear that other dress code which other people are not wearing and not have any problem with it, because that's not changing anything about you. Like if I decide to go
Sir,
to
see,
office in
sir,
shorts.
I see in my class or in my session or maybe in some, see, like not all. Occasionally, we may find 2 or 3 students like this who find it very difficult. See, they have a disrespect from their own peer pressure, from their own group. They may not. They will tell they don't speak to me. They don't accept me. So one in that one point could be that this also, but. As you have put it very right, that yes, it is the general, everything comes from the heart. But what I would like to underline over here is, see, everybody is different, all are not same, but everybody purpose will be same, could be it is for a universal, everybody, we are brotherhood, all those are fully accepted. But somewhere in close in a class, 1 or 2 get exception, but I think some we require little bit of confidence building in them. You have to tell them that you are all equal. So something, one small intervention on maybe in the student also, not to talk. That is my perception, which I would like to add to your point, sir. It was
True,
just an
true.
intervention.
That's what.
Please carry on, sir.
True. That's a good point also, that we want to try to show that we are equal, but also see that there are differences, and different people have different opinions, different preconditioning, different assumptions. So that will always be different from person to person. Everybody doesn't have the same opinions, right? They all
Yes,
have
correct.
different opinions. So based on all those opinions, those assumptions and all that, people act. So
Yes,
then when they act, then does their behavior, um, I mean, is their behavior uncomfortable for you? And if it is uncomfortable, then you have two choices, right? Either you change your behavior so that you fit into that group where you behave like that group, or else you stay with your behavior, knowing that your behavior is okay, and
nice, sir. Nice.
you
Correct.
can still.
I
Yeah,
think they're very valid points, sir. Correct.
yeah. So it all depends on us also, that even if the other people are mocking me, suppose I still try to do something good for those people, then how long will they mock me for? Like suppose this person is the poor person is there who is not dressing as good as those people. Suppose he is able to create a relation with them such that he is able to help them to do something also which they want to do, which they cannot do but he can do. Suppose he starts doing things like that, and suppose these people also start accepting him,
Yes,
then
yes.
regardless of the clothes, that relation will be strong.
Uh,
Yes,
Arjun,
sir.
can I, in the UHV, when we teach the students, no, we keep this proposal, no, we are not supposed to differentiate based on the physical facility. If
Correct,
that
madam.
is known to the students, they will never differentiate this boy, no?
Yeah, usually they will not do, madam. But see, 1 or 2 stray incidents do happen. We
That
should
is the
not differentiate. But
preconditioning.
personally,
Preconditioning.
they come and tell us. See, personally, in a long span of time, no, 1 or 2 incidents earlier, and now what is happening is the change will be seen. See,
Yeah, yeah.
earlier. Yeah, that is very important, madam. What I'm trying to tell is maybe around 4 to 5 years earlier. Now that mindset has to change, madam.
Yeah, in the UHV session, when we discuss about respect, that disrespect is one thing when we are differentiating based on the physical facility, positions, all those things. No, we differentiate people based on the position, that and all we are not supposed to do. That is all disrespect. So that is what we are teaching, we are putting as proposal to the students. So in due course of time, the student will understand we are not supposed to differentiate based on the physical facility.
Correct, madam. Correct,
So
madam.
that will,
Nice,
when it
madam.
comes to the student, then automatically the other student will not differentiate. If a boy is coming from a poor family background, they understand that is disrespect. So slowly it will come, I think.
Yeah,
These
madam.
we are also actually verifying it now, and we are in cultivating to the students. So it will come, I think.
Yeah, definitely, madam. All your talks and all the, definitely you will get a good result. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
So
you very
even,
much, madam, for a nice.
even when we look at like even when we are saying rich or poor, when we see rich also, then we often notice that as parents or as teachers, many times we have made some kind of discrimination without really focusing on it when we have to deal with the poorer section. Like suppose there's a maid who is working and your son is there or daughter is there, then sometimes you don't encourage the son or daughter to play with the maid's child. So that could be an example where we are means shielding people away based on their amount of wealth.
Status, correct. Yeah.
So it happens very often in the society, and it looks like the right thing to do. But then when we see that that is only one thing, and we are just discriminating based on the wealth position,
Yeah.
then it becomes very weird, like very strange that why are we doing this kind of.
Yeah.
Or when we sit on the sofa and the maid sits on the floor, then it feels okay. But how is that okay if we see like the other person also has the same kind of a self, same kind of imagination, same kind of purpose, same potential in terms of the self when we look. But when
Yeah.
we look at body and when we look at this physical facility and all, it looks like that is the criteria for the evaluation. But actually, that is just something which is a difference, and nobody wants to be poor. If you see,
Oh, yeah. It is by the circumstance they had, but I think slowly we are. I am also making a change. I am also in our house. We have a maid. She sits with us, with me. In the evenings, and also these. I think slowly. I think these changes will come. We should not differentiate based on their income and all those things. This Even when servers, you were telling, no, with mates, children, we don't make our our children play. I was remembering my son's childhood. I had since I was working, I had a maid who used to take care of my son when I go to the college. So I feel very happy, means she was taking care very nicely. She didn't have a own child, but she used to bring her younger sister some days. So my son used to play very well with that girl. So see, I don't know, I didn't know these values. I have not learned, but still it was there. It is inherent in our this thing, no? So it doesn't make a difference whether he plays with my neighbor child or this child. So that those things, I think I was just recollecting it.
You are absolutely right, madam. Child will never discriminate. They will
Yeah.
treat all children equally.
Equally, they just want to play, they want someone to play.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
so there are so many examples where we can see that um, that the parents are also, like all our preconditioning comes from multiple sources from outside. It can come from parents, it can come from teachers, it can come from the social media, it can come from movies, it can come from so many outside sources, other people's discussions, it can come from so many places, and the mind is always gathering more and more impressions. So our preconditioning becomes very strong and therefore it becomes hard to break. So um, once we start looking at things directly, like through our natural acceptance, then over time all these preconditionings can be sorted out, and then we can clear up many things over a course of time. So doing that will really be useful for everyone because it makes everything more comfortable, and we feel more happy also by always referring to our natural acceptance and taking decisions which are coming from our natural acceptance. So our natural acceptance is for respect for all, and for the right feeling for the other person, regardless of whether that person is young or old, regardless of whether that person is rich or poor. We want to have because we have a feeling inside us, a positive feeling of love, a feeling of you know um, respect, and all these feelings we have within us, and we definitely want to receive them also from others. So we also want to give them, and we get so much joy by giving those feelings also. So when we start giving those feelings to more and more people, and when we start breaking that barrier of rich and poor and all these kind of things which we have made up, when we start breaking all that and treating everyone the same, then it makes us also happy because we also feel more connected with everyone else. Rather than feeling that we are different, we also start feeling more connected and then more complementary. So now we have, I think, 5 minutes left. We'll quickly go over this uh, thing of self-confidence, ego, and depression. So when we have the right evaluation for ourselves, and which is on the basis of our own reference, that means when we have been able to evaluate ourselves without looking at the other, then it leads to a state of self-confidence, because then whatever the other may decide and give you an evaluation, you know exactly where you are. So then you don't get influenced by another person's evaluation of you. So this is how we were discussing in the party, that if you go for a party and everybody is wearing a suit, and because of that you feel that you should also wear a suit, then your um, your evaluation is based on the other, it's not based on yourself. So if you have the feeling that you are your own reference point, when you are sure of that, then you don't need to really focus too much on those things about the clothes and about all those things. You'll just wear something to protect the body, which is comfortable for you and which is um, you know uh, something which will work for that occasion, of course. But we're not focusing on the occasion, we're more focusing on just clothes which will protect the body for that season, the weather and all that. We're just focusing on that. We're not really focusing on the fact that since others are wearing this suit, I also have to wear suit. So we have the reference point set within us rather than others setting the reference point. So then if somebody criticizes or somebody says anything or somebody gives another kind of evaluation about you, somebody over evaluates, somebody under evaluates, somebody under evaluation might be some kind of disrespect or something. So when somebody gives you all those things, then you are unmoved, you are stable, because you have self confidence and you are your own reference point. So you don't have to, you're not really getting influenced by the other person's evaluation of you, because you have your own evaluation and you are confident of that, you are sure of that. You have definite conduct regardless of what the other person may say. So when you have this right evaluation, then peer pressure doesn't bother you at all, because you start becoming aware of your natural acceptance. You start becoming aware of your you're able to evaluate yourself correctly and you're very sure of that. So peer pressure doesn't have any role over there, because it cannot influence once you are sure of the things. Peer pressure is an influence which is coming from outside, from other people. But if you have your own reference very tightly, very firmly in place, then peer pressure will not affect you. In the second case is of over evaluation, where we are talking about a place where the other is the reference. So suppose you go to the same party and everybody is wearing a suit and you wear some even more fancy thing, and then people start praising you for that, then you start going into a place where you feel better than what you are. So then you start feeling very good about that, and that leads to indefinite conduct, because you are like in a mood where you're like in a very good mood for a short period of time. It's like an excitement kind of a thing, like how it comes with sensation and all that. Similar kind of thing happens here also, where you go into a false image of yourself, that this is what you are. You just lift yourself up on a pedestal and say that you're here. That's what happens. And then when the other doesn't praise you, or when the other criticizes you, then you drop all the way down, much below where you actually are also. So that may lead to depression. That's the third stage. So when you're in ego and depression, they both come side by side, because somebody may praise you a lot, that may take you into ego. Somebody may criticize you also a lot, that may take you into depression. And you will keep fluctuating between these two, because your reference is the other. So the other can be somebody who is praising you, or it can be somebody who is criticizing you, or it can be somebody who is just not saying anything, and you may still feel good or bad about it, because you're very unstable kind of. So that leads to indefinite conduct, because your conduct is always based on what the other person's evaluation of you is. So when you're in that state, then it is natural to go into this kind of a fluctuation, this graph as you see. And when you're at the black line in the graph, which is stable, then you're in self confidence, where you are completely like unmoved by what the other person may say. The other person's reference is not really going to affect you, because you are sure of your own reference, and that doesn't change. That reference, self-referential, when you are your own reference, then that doesn't change with time, or that doesn't change at all. So that is where you feel a sense of freedom also, because you don't feel compelled to do something because somebody else is saying that you must do it. So even in the alcohol example which we just took, where there are 10 people drinking alcohol, and then you say that you don't want to drink, then some people may say, okay, that's very good, you have a lot of control on yourself and all that. Somebody else may say that you're like a brahmachari kind of person, boring person, something like that. So people may say different kinds of things, but if your referential is yourself, and you're very sure of your own evaluation, then all these other evaluations, that okay, you're boring, or you have a lot of control, or whatever, all these evaluations are just something which is like hitting you and bouncing away, because it's not really being absorbed by you. You're not taking it in like that. You're just your own reference, and whatever anybody may say doesn't really affect. So that's where we want to reach. We want to reach that space where we are able to rightly evaluate ourselves and be our own reference point, so that no other person's evaluation uh, can lead to a change in your state. So that's what we want to. That's where we want to reach. And if we are in the state of the fluctuation, then we'll see that on the right side how we have this ego and depression circle that becomes a continuous loop, because um, based on the other, we may sometimes be lifted into that state of ego, and sometimes we may be dropped way below our level by putting us into depression. So it always depends on the other. So we may always have all kinds of people around us, and some people may take us into ego, some people may take us into depression. And even with the same people also, like suppose I keep praising you every day, and one day I don't praise you, then you may still drop into depression because you might think that, okay, this person didn't praise me today. So what happened? Why is he doing this? And it leads to that frustration, anger, depression, all these kinds of things. So what we're saying is that we want to be our own reference point and make our decisions based on our own evaluation of what to do, and to see that the right evaluation is based on these things that we have discussed before. um, just go back to that. The right evaluation is based on these four things: our potential and competence. So that means if we are able to see these four things, then we'll handle the situations also in a very different way. Like if we take that party example where 10 people are drinking and I'm choosing not to drink, then I can try to be in this state where I can try to help the other people also to figure out that, I can try to help them to understand that trying to get happiness out of any sensation cannot really be continuous. So it may be hard to start to, do these things, but they can be done only once the other person is assured that you can help them and that you are at a higher level and you can help them. Only then the other person becomes receptive to listen, and only then you start seeing some kind of changes also taking place and all that. So if we are going in this way, in this manner, then we can always try to help the other. If the other person is, even if the other person is criticizing me, then I will not feel bad about it. I will just feel that this person has a little bit less understanding than me, and I can try to help them to see things in this way. And then it may help them also, and it'll help me also, but I'm not getting perturbed by their behavior. So even if I go to office in shorts and everybody's laughing at me also, then I am not perturbed by their behavior and I still try to help them. So then over time they see that, I am trying to help them, and all those things they start seeing. And then they may accept me or they may not accept me, but that doesn't bother me because I'm my own reference point and I know the right evaluation. I mean, I'm able to assess myself properly, and I'm able to see that clothes are required only for the right utilization of the body and to protect the body. That's all. So once I see all these things, then my whole view changes, and the things start going in a different way. So I don't really bother about what is the other person's evaluation of me. I take any points if I need to, but I don't base my state of feeling based on the other person's evaluation of me. So with that, we'll close this session. If there's any
Yes,
immediate question, then we can take. Otherwise, we'll close.
right, Arjun. I was really listening to the session with a lot of interest, and I hope our participants, our friends, the co-explorers have taken a keen interest in the same. So, Arjun, I think we'll close the session at this point,
Yeah.
and we'll continue it next Wednesday, coming Wednesday. So, till then, thank you, Arjun, and namaste to all our friends.